Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. So it's final drive time. Not really looking forward to this part of it because, well, you can see down here, just a little bit of that residual oil has seeped out of the bearing area of this left side assembly, and I'll tell you what, that is some foul smelling stuff. That is definitely the old school gear lube, and once we get these apart, I think the air is going to be thick in here. It's going to be pretty hard to breathe, but we'll get through it. We've done it before. Right side drive here, left side drive there. I don't know if you guys remember, but last fall when I was taking the chassis apart, when I drained this right side drive, both of these small little pieces of metal came out. About the same over here. Uh-oh. That is a piece of metal. And I don't know what they are, but they each look like they've been between gear teeth. So hoping we don't find any bull gear or pinion related damage in here. It's always really nice when you bust into these things and you just find everything is good. So no warning signs at all from the left side unit. We'll just have to see when we get into them. So first step is going to be pulling the drive sprockets off. An interesting thing I've noticed here, it looks like this one's had some hammer marks put on it, at least on the faces of 3 of those spokes. I don't know if the last person that had this off didn't have a pressing adapter to reinstall it again, and they just belted it with a hammer and called it good. I've got some book specs that say 20-ton press fit on these. Another book spec says 15. So I tell you what, sometimes they can be really tight, but if they just put it on with a hammer last time, that could be good news for us because they don't pop off that hard. So, all right, let's just get into it, shall we? So we've got these bolt-on locks that surround the sprocket nut. We need to remove both of the bolts and the lock first thing. Now 2 7/8 socket will fit the nut. Now, on each side, there should be a cork ring. Yep, right here. We can peel it out. They always crumble because they're usually pretty dried up. This stops the oil that seeps up through the splines from actually coming out beneath the nut and making a mess. So we want to dig all that out of there. Now we're ready to set up to start pulling. I've chased the threads in the sprockets. That's where the puller is going to attach, and we're going to start with this mechanical puller. You take a look at the book, that's what they show for removing those, so that's how we're going to go. I think the big thing is, they don't really have the real estate to use hydraulics here because, you attach to that hole and that hole. Not a lot of room to put any kind of a ram in there, so you'd really be fabricating like a plate where you could still utilize those 2 spots, but then cover that footprint and have something and get to the top of the ram to be able to pull. It would be a lot of work. So we're just going to see how this does. I've cleaned all the old grease and grit and dirt off the threads. We're going to throw some fresh oil on those, get just as much force out of this as we possibly can. We've got a couple really good new grade 8 5/8 coarse thread bolts. They're going to thread into the sprocket. And I made this, it's kind of a catch ring. What it is, I'll show you here. That's just an old sprocket nut that I cut the dome cap off of. This one had been hammered on, beat up, and collapsed in. Somebody's had a pipe wrench on it, and I think maybe even a chisel. So it was just a good candidate to turn into a tool. I cut the whole dome cap off. So what that's going to do is thread onto the sprocket shaft. There we go. I'll run that in a little bit closer, but that keeps the end of the shaft open for a good push point. And it's also going to prevent us from having a scenario where we have 100 pounds of flying sprocket to have to deal with if that press fit releases. There, that one didn't even give a pop. It's loose. All right, so the question is, can we get lucky again? Alright, come on Squatch, put the power to it. Alright, that's about as tight as I can go. So sometimes knocking these with a sledge helps them pop, and these rings, these sprocket rings, can take quite a lot, so you don't really have to, well, they're not made of glass like you used to sing on the railroad. Oh, we're still tight. Let's see if we can put some more pressure on it. Okay. Let's hit it again. Still tight. There we go. There, it loosened up. Got it. So we're just having a look at things, and you know, looks like this bellows seal has been seeping for a while, not all out leaking, but so what we have, this is the seal here, and it has a cork facing on it, which doesn't look bad, honestly. And on the back side of the sprocket this is a big washer, and it has a very finely machined smooth finish. And yeah, there's some scoring there, a little bit of wear on that. That can start wearing on the cork, but you know, these bellows seals, they did seep somewhat. Also, they needed a little bit of seepage to keep this cork from running dry. Kind of like packing behind a packing nut. It needs to drip a little bit in order not to run dry and just wear out. So we'll take this bellows seal out next. To do that, I need to remove this bolt, and that. It's kind of like a dirt deflector right there. See, these bolts have little pegs on the end, and they go in a notch that's in the bellows seal towards the inside, and they not only keep that from heaving out, but they also keep it from spinning. So if you don't take these bolts out first and just start prying on the seal, you'll wreck the seal. I've seen a few that have looked like they've had that happen. There's the peg on the other one. Okay. And it's glove up time now. If you get this stuff on you, you can't wash it off. This one's kind of gunked in. Get some stuff around the perimeter and then it kind of wants to stick, but there we go. So you can see that's the one notch, the one little peg bolt went in. There's the other one. And cork ring on the back side. That one looks like it was a bit stuck. We pulled it in half, but yeah, this is the old style compressible tin bellows seal. They have some springs around the inside. I like these. These are so cool. Just think of how much went into making this seal. I think they're really neat. But then again, I am a dork, so here's part of the rest of that cork ring. Surprised it's all staying together. Yeah, there we go. Wow, that's some tough cork. So the next thing we're going to do is go around here to the inboard side of the sprocket shaft. Cotter pin gets pulled out of the castle nut. We'll take that off. It is 1 7/8. Fits it real good. Washer, the bearing's already drifting off, so this is where we get our first look at what condition in here might be. Ooh, I tell you what, those look minty. That's a good looking bearing. Race seems nice and smooth too. Boy, I like that. Now we're ready to pull these front covers off of the housings. So we've got 10 bolts that go around the back and 6 that go around the front on each one. You can see I've got both these gasket joints separated. Each one is started on the way. We've extended out our cardboard here because, you know, there's always residual that comes out of those things once you break the seal. So yeah, cover will come off the front, sprocket shaft and bowl gear will come with them. I never like this part. This is where you're really hoping you don't see anything horrible when you pull this cover off, because vinyl drives are either good or they're bad. There's really no in between. There we go. So here's what I'm seeing. The pinion is pristine, just excellent. And this outer bearing race looks excellent. The outer bearing and the cover looks excellent. I am, however, seeing some spalling on the drive side faces of the bowl gear teeth. I think you can see those there. Reverse sides are good, but you know, here's what I'm thinking already. I think this pinion has been replaced. and this bowl gear is likely original. Now, we know that this tractor spent a lot of time in forward gear from the wear that we found in that transmission, and considering this is like a 5.3 to 1 gear ratio pinion to bowl gear, meaning the pinion has to spin 5+ times to make the bowl gear spin once, the bulk of the wear usually shows up on the pinion because you have fewer teeth with more engagements. So yeah, they probably thought that bowl gear was good to go again, put a new pinion shaft in and everything like that, probably re-bearinged it and went on their way. So yeah, we're gonna have to get this further apart and cleaned up a lot better to really assess that bowl gear, but I'm not seeing anything in here that really scares me. But this isn't the drive that had the mystery pieces of metal. That one is. So we'll get into that next. Okay, I think we just found the source of that metal. So here's what I'm seeing. It was that oil trough. It looks like it rubbed pretty hard on the inside of this bowl gear right here. I think what happened, it got thin right through here, and then it finally, well, it hooked enough to tear away, and I'm pretty sure it was the leading edge of this kind of raised boss right here. That's pretty shiny. It's been contacting pretty hard. You can see the ring that goes all the way around there. So yeah, it ripped it right open. We've got a hole in the bottom. It shelled out those two little pieces right there, and they got between the bowl gears. Good thing I can't find any damage to the pinion, and I've also run the bowl gear all the way around, and it's really dirty. It's kind of hard to really see fine detail, but there's no chips, no chunks missing, anything like that. So I'm pretty sure we dodged a pretty good bullet right here. Happy as of right now. When I get it cleaned up, that's really going to tell the story. But yeah, so this is kind of a common thing on D2s. I've seen a lot of these troughs that had contacted the backs of the bowl gears really hard. That's probably your best case scenario right there. Just a little bit of shine right in the center, no appreciable wear, but I have seen damage like that before. So this is actually not too bad. I probably can just put a new face piece on there, repair it, and we'll be fixed up and good to go again. So yeah, definitely feeling pretty good about this. Those two pieces had me nervous. So I think what I'm going to do now, we're not going to try and pop these bowl gears off of the shafts. I'm going to work on getting these pinions out of each of the main housings first. So the first step in pulling the pinions is to get the steering clutch drum off. This is going to be almost an identical setup to pulling steering clutches. So we have the same heavy bolt with washer in the center. We'll get that off there first. And our nice little handy stop bolt tool comes into play once again. So we'll seat that down so we can use it to catch the drum once the taper releases. Okay, we're ready there. So one thing I want to point out, they actually corked both of the threaded puller holes in that drum. I've never been into a D2 yet that still had the corks in those holes. I've heard about it in a manual, but this is the first time I've ever actually seen it. So it's kind of a novelty. And this is the same pulling setup that we used for the steering clutches. Everything transfers right over. Okay, that let loose at about 7 tons. Love that thing. Seven. With the drums off, the pinions can slide out. Boy, this intermediate bearing just looks brand new. Oh my gosh. So happy with that. All we can see is the race of the inner one at this point, but even that's looking really good. Much the same on this side too. Back to the insides of the housings again. We can take this seal retainer out now. Check that bearing out real quick again. Looks really nice. Good. And I'll also pull those oil tubes out. Yeah, there's our broken one. Man, I gotta clean up now. Okay, so it's a little while later. I had to take some time to kind of clean the mess a little bit, trying to keep it under control as much as possible. I lifted both of the housings up and I got that old oil-soaked piece of cardboard out of there. Then set them back down, propped them up so we have better access to the brake bands and the actuators for next time. The final drive covers with the bull gears and shafts are pretty much where they were, and then I relocated most of the smaller pieces up here to the bench. So never seems to take me very long to fill this space back up, I tell you. But honestly, pretty happy with how those pinions look, how the bearings look, how the drums look. I tell you what, I think our biggest problem is this right here, and that's pretty minor, so I'll take it. But we've reached the end of another day in the shop, so next time we're gonna get the rest of the brake components out of those housings. I can start cleaning those at that point, and then we'll see what it's gonna take to get those bull gears pressed off of those sprocket shafts. Sometimes those can be quite tight, sometimes they're not too bad. We're just gonna give it a try. I'd really like to get that stuff apart so we can really look at those outer bearings and get everything very, very well cleaned. So thanks for watching, everybody. As always, memberships available down below, ad-free content, early releases on videos, extra behind the scenes bonus. Okay, starting to trip over my tongue. It's time to quit. Thanks, everybody.